Welcome to Millersville University Office of Learning Services presentation on test taking strategies. My name is Hannah Chappelle and I am a graduate assistant from the Office of Learning Services. Today we are going to talk about what to do before your test, understanding and reducing test anxiety, what to do during the test, and what to do after the test. Please take a moment to complete the test prep quiz located in your handout. Before you take your test, it is important to create a study plan, control your study environment, and utilize studying tips. To create a study plan, you should start by using old homework assignments, quizzes, and previous tests as study materials. In class, take good, well-organized notes. Ensure that notes are complete and have a method to signal which information is the most important. Make sure you have your textbooks handy so you can study definitions from the book and utilize chapter review questions. If available, participate in a study group or attend group tutoring sessions. Finally, don't be afraid to ask your professor about the test format. Many professors are willing to share the actual format of the test, whether it's multiple choice, true, false, short answers, essays, which can help with creating your study plan. Next, take the steps to control the environment. First, set aside a fixed place and time for studying and nothing but studying. Do not study in bed. Second, if your mind wanders, stand up and face away from the books for a few minutes. Then try going back. Third, set small, short-range goals for yourself. Divide your assignments into subsections. Fourth, keep a notepad to write down reminders or a schedule for your assignments. Staying organized is important. Finally, allow time to completely relax before you start your study session. Finally, incorporate some study tips and techniques. Try paraphrasing. Paraphrasing helps make sure you understand the material well enough to explain it to a friend. If you can explain it in your own words, you're well on your way to memorize it for the test. Also, make sure you are attending the class right before the test. Most likely, information about the test and last-minute reviews occur during the last class meeting. This is also a great time to ask questions. If you recognize that you do not understand part of the material from class, speak to your professor or attend office hours. There are two kinds of remembering. First, there is general remembering. This is remembering the idea without using the exact words of the book or professor. The arts, social sciences, and literature probably make the greatest use of this particular kind of remembering. The second is verbatim remembering. This is remembering the identical words by which something is expressed. This is seen most often in law, dramatics, science, engineering, mathematics, and foreign languages, where the exact words, formulas, rules, norms, laws, lines in a play, or vocabulary must be remembered. It is very common to experience test anxiety right before a test. Here are some ways to reduce test anxiety. Space out your studying over a few days or weeks and continually review class materials. Don't wait until the night before and try to learn everything the night before. Try to maintain a positive attitude while preparing for the test and during the test. Stay relaxed. If you begin to get nervous, take a few deep breaths, slow to relax yourself, and then get back to work. Exercise for a few days before the test to help reduce stress. Mentally practice going through the test experience. Get a good night's sleep before the test. Show up to class early so you won't have to worry about being late. Read the directions slowly and carefully. Skim through the test so that you have a good idea how to pace yourself. Write down important formulas, facts, definitions, or keywords in the margins first so you don't have to worry about forgetting them. Don't worry about how fast other people finish their tests. Just concentrate on your own test. If you don't know a question, skip it for the time being. Come back to it later if you have time. And remember that you don't have to always get every question right to do well on a test. Focus on the question at hand. Don't let your mind wander onto other things. If you still experience extreme test anxiety after following these tips, seek help from your school counselor. Approaching the test. Do not try to pull an all-nighter the night before the exam. A night of good sleep is vital to performing well on a test. Put the main ideas, information, formulas onto a sheet that can be quickly reviewed many times. This makes it easier to retain the key concepts that will be on the test. Try to show up to at least 15 minutes before the test will start. The morning of, make sure you set your alarm and have a backup alarm so you do not miss the test. Go to the bathroom before walking into the exam room. You don't want to have to waste any time worrying about your bodily needs during a test. So congratulations, you made it to the test. When you first receive your test, do a quick survey of the entire test so that you know how to efficiently budget your time. Don't rush, but pace yourself. Read the entire question and look for keywords. Always read the whole question carefully, and don't make assumptions about what the answer might be. If you don't know an answer, skip it. Go on while the rest of the test and come back to it later. Maybe on another part of the test, there will be something that will help you out with that question. Don't worry if others finish before you. Focus on the test in front of you. Everyone works at their own pace. When you are finished, if you have time left, look over your test and make sure that you have answered all the questions. Watch out for careless mistakes and proofread your essay and/or short answer questions. On the test, you may come across different types of questions. For essay questions, read the directions carefully. Pay close attention to whether you are supposed to answer all the essay questions or only a specific amount. An example, answer 2 of the 3 questions. Make sure that you understand what the question is asking you. If not, ask your instructor. Make sure that you write down everything that it's asking for. Budget your time. Don't spend the entire test on one essay. If the question is asking for facts, don't give your personal opinion on the topic. Make an outline before writing your essay. This way your essay will be organized and fluid. If you happen to run out of time, most instructors will give you partial credit for the ideas that you have outlined. Don't write long introductions or conclusions. The bulk of your time should be spent on answering the questions asked. Focus on one main idea per paragraph. If you have time left at the end of your proofread, you work and correct any errors. Budget your time. If you have an hour to write 3 essays, spend no more than 20 minutes on each essay. Then if you have time left over at the end, go back and finish any incomplete essays. If you aren't sure about an exact date or number, then use approximations. If you make a mistake, simply draw a line through it. It is much neater and quicker than erasing it. The second type of question you may come across is multiple choice. When answering multiple choice questions, make sure you read the question before you look at the answer. Come up with the answer in your head before looking at the possible answers. This way, the choices given on the test won't throw you off or trick you. Eliminate answers you know aren't right. Read all the choices before choosing your answer. Do not second guess yourself. Don't keep on changing your answer. Usually your first choice is the right one unless you misread the question. In all of above or none of the above choices, if you are certain one of the statements is true, do not choose none of the above. Or if one of the statements is false, do not choose all of the above. In a question with an all of the above choice, if you see at least 2 correct statements, then all of the above is probably the correct answer. The third type of question you may come across is true and false questions. When answering true and false questions, read through each statement carefully and pay attention to the qualifiers and keywords. Qualifiers like never, always, and every means that the statement must be true all of the time. Usually these type of qualifiers lead to a false answer. Qualifiers like usually, sometimes, and generally mean that if the statement can be considered true or false depending on the circumstance. Usually, these type of qualifiers lead to an answer of true. If any part of the question is false, then the entire statement is false. But just because part of the statement is true doesn't necessarily make the entire statement true. In classes, you may come across quantitative math. When studying quantitative math or answering quantitative math questions, keep these tips in mind. Repetition is important in math. You learn how to solve problems by doing them, so keep on practicing problems. Work on practice problems for each topic ranging in levels of difficulty. When practicing, try to solve the problem on your own first, then look up the answer or seek help if you're having trouble. Mix up the order of the questions from various topics when you are reviewing so you learn when to use a specific method or formula. Make up a sheet with all the formulas you need to know and memorize and put them on the formula sheet. When you get your exam, write down all the key formulas on the margin of your paper so you do not forget. Read the directions carefully and don't forget to answer all parts of the question. Show all your work, especially when partial credit is awarded. Even if you know the final answer is wrong, don't erase your entire work because you could get partial credit for using the correct procedure. Check over your test after you are done with it. If you have time to redo the problem on a separate piece of paper and see if you come up with the same answer the second time around. Look for careless mistakes such as making sure that decimal is in the right place, reading the directions carefully, that you copied the numbers correctly, that you put a negative sign if it is needed, and that your arithmetic is correct, and so on. So you finished the test. Now what? When you get your test back, look it over and make sure that there is no grading mistakes. Look over the test and make sure that you understand your mistakes. If you don't know the answer to a question, either look it up or ask a classmate or your teacher. If the teacher reviews the test in class, be sure to take notes on what the teacher wanted for an answer on the questions or problems that you got wrong. If you aren't satisfied with your grade, go to your instructor and see if there's any makeup exam or any extra credit you can do. Save the test to study for future cumulative tests. Thank you and come see us again.